Welcome to episode 6 of the Worship Online podcast.
Yes.
Today we have a guest.
Yes.
We're doing an awesome interview. Do you mind if I just do like a little intro?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. So, with Worship Online, we basically we get so many talented people, awesome people I get to work with every day. And we set out to do drums one day. I spoke with the team, and there was just one person I had in mind that I wanted to get to do our drum tutorials.
That's awesome.
And actually, I don't know if I ever told you this, probably whenever I listen to worship drummers, one of my favorite worship drummers, probably because I've heard you play live more than most drummers, but anyway, with no further ado, we have Austin Davis here with us. Hi. The one, the only.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Dude, we're glad that you're here, man. This is going to be a blast.
Stoked to do it.
Yeah,
Thanks for asking me.
Cool. We're pumped to have you, man. We've got a lot going on, and we just launched this thing, and it's been fun because we've kind of talked a lot about really the heart behind worship, because I think that's where the podcast got started, because we've done a ton of logistics and how to do things, how to play songs, but really going back to the root of what worship leading is all about and the heart. And so we've kind of talked about some of those things along the way in the first few episodes, but we're like, man, we've got to start doing some interviews and get some guys in here and just start kind of unwrapping really kind of how you got started and what you're doing and kind of what some of your influences are. So we're going to talk about a lot of that today, which I'm pumped about. So
yeah.
Be cool.
Sounds good.
So just, what do you want to say? Just kidding. Just go ahead. I'm going to go grab a coffee.
Well, now that you asked.
I'm going to go grab a coffee. Just whatever you want to say. We'll pass it.
Preach a message.
No, I mean, just introduce yourself. People maybe don't know you, and then tell us what you're up to
sure.
now.
My name is Austin Davis. Austin Luke Kaleo Lanakila Davis. That's actually
awesome.
my real name.
That is awesome.
Little
So
known
you're
fact,
from
you can
Hawaii.
only hear that on this podcast.
Wow.
No. So yeah, I'm from Hawaii. I was born and raised there, and that's a little far back. But what I'm doing right now is I just got off doing a tour with Carrie Job. This whole last year, I guess 2017, we toured her Garden album, which was really good. And now we're leaving tonight, actually, to go on Winter Jam for the next 3 months.
Nice.
So
Come on, bro.
Back at it. But yeah, that's just been off for the holidays and about to hit it
Who's
again.
going to do all the Worship Online tutorials? You haven't even told me.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I was in the other day.
I know. I was just
This
kidding.
is his way of telling you.
You tell me now
Gotta go.
live on the podcast. Just kidding.
Super cool, bro.
No, we're actually way ahead. We are way ahead.
Yeah.
That's
So-
awesome.
We did a lot of videos in December, I feel like. So
Yeah.
we're set.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, and also just while I'm home doing writing, a lot of writing and producing and just kind of passion project type stuff that, while I'm home to keep me occupied. But yeah, as far as work, that's what I'm up to.
You also have an album you did yourself, too. Just to
I-
plug it. If
I
you want to plug it
do.
real fast, it's sick.
I wasn't planning on it, but if you want me to,
Yeah.
I
I'm
made
going to grab a
an-
guitar. And if you can,
You
sing
can
one
play
real
through
quick,
some
it'd
You
be
guys are gonna ask me to sing. Yeah, I made an EP. It's just worship music, and I started leading worship when I was a senior in high school, and been writing ever since then. And yeah, it was just something that I just felt like I should do. Just I don't know, for myself. It's not like anyone was begging me to do it, but
It's great.
I just made it, me and my buddy, and yeah, it came out in 2016, and it's been fun. I'm hoping to do at least another single or something this year. So
That'd be sick.
yeah,
That's awesome, man.
Looking forward to it.
Bring it.
Me
So tell
too.
us, so you just did the tour with Carrie. Just impress us for a minute. What are some of the artists that you've played with? Give us an idea.
The artists that I've toured with in the last few years, I've been playing with Carrie for the last 8.5 years.
Dang.
And I can talk more about that with my whole story. But I did about 1.5 years of touring with Lauren Daigle when she was kind of first starting her band. That was really fun. And I've toured with country artists Russell Dickerson, and I played with a girl named Daniela Mason, pop artist. And honestly, whoever just needs whoever needs a drummer.
Lots of session work.
Yeah. I've gotten to play on some cool records this year, some like Vertical Church stuff, and can't remember what else. But yeah, I've done some programming for those sorts of things too. But yeah,
It's awesome, man.
that's
Nice.
most of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
great.
So I guess that leads us to the big question here. How did you get to this point? You like started out, I assume like playing in your local church.
Yeah.
Just walk us through that.
So-
how'd you get your job?
Right. I forgot to talk about the Belonging album.
Oh yeah.
That
a
came
big
out
one.
last year. That was awesome. Got to play
Yeah.
on that, which was the best. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, I grew up in Hawaii. My dad is a music pastor, worship leader, keys player. My mom's also a singer and all that. So I was kind of just
Nice.
raised in music. Like I was just like born into this church, and I always liked music, but I always kind of just wanted to be like a professional like basketball player or a skateboarder or like professional anything.
Yeah.
You know, that was like my
Yeah.
dream as a kid. But I was really into sports, kind of, and so when I was 11, my dad, they were starting this like plant, like church plant, and they didn't have a drummer one night, and he was like, "Son, I don't have a drummer. I need you to learn how to play drums today." And I was like, "Okay,
No pressure.
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, whatever."
Dang.
And so he just like my dad actually taught me my first beat. It was just like
Nice.
He's like, "Play this on every song. Like no cymbals, literally just closed hi-hats, kick and snare. That was it." And
Nice.
so I practiced for not even, an hour. And then we actually flew to this other island to do the service. And I played that night on a V drum kit, electronic drums.
Nice.
And it was so bad, my dad actually told me to stop playing in the middle of the song. Like,
Oh god.
it was pretty brutal.
That still happens to me
He literally
today,
just gave me
actually,
this
so-
look, like,
Nah.
just cut it out. So, but yeah, that was like the start of like the whole snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was 11 and I was about to turn 12 at the end of the summer, and I basically did these like Tuesday night services with my dad at this other location every week, every Tuesday for the whole summer before I started school. And then like by the end of it, I just like was like obsessed, and I just had seen like kind of rapid growth in my like ability to like learn drums.
Yeah.
And like I don't think I'd ever seen that kind of growth in anything that I'd ever done, especially like sports or
Yeah.
anything like that. I was just like getting better really fast.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, this is crazy. And after the summer was over, I just like jumped all the way in and became obsessed with it. And started playing in my junior high first. You got to like work your way up to like
Nice, yeah.
big service.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of like
Yeah.
that. So like I started in junior high and then get to play in like high school, but I wasn't even in high school yet. So, and then my dad, like, he'd start to sneak me in at like big service. And then probably by the time I was like 12 or 13, I was playing regularly on like Sunday mornings at my church. And it's a pretty decent sized church. Anyway, so yeah, like other than playing in rock bands with my friends, like hardcore bands
Yeah.
and
Doing Underoath
emo
covers.
bands, yeah. Like I just played in church. Like church was like my practice, and I actually didn't even ever own a drum kit. My parents didn't buy me one.
Dang.
Not to throw them under the bus.
Yeah.
Well,
Dang.
they had bought me one once after I begged them, but they didn't buy me like any cymbals or like a snare or anything, so I couldn't actually play a bunch of toms and a kick. So I just gave them to the church and played them there. But so anytime I practiced, I basically lived at my church because I actually went to school at the church. So
Oh.
I'm making this story really long.
No,
but,
this is good. It's
great.
Yeah, so did that, and I got to play on like my church's live recordings. I did like 3 or 4 of them. Like my first live recording, I was like 14,
Dang.
which was like pretty huge for me.
Yeah.
That was like a huge learning thing. That was the first time I'd ever played the click or anything like
Dang.
that. And
Nice.
it was just like, I think we just ran it on like an iPod or
Yes.
something like that.
That's awesome.
This was like before
like the
you
stereo.
know, before tracks or anything like
just-
that.
Oh, yeah.
it was very live.
Yes.
But yeah, and so anyway, fast forward, I had never played professionally at all. I'd never really been paid to do anything in my life up until that point. I had never had a job, and so like I guess my dream was to go to music school. Like I always thought, like I'm gonna go to Berkeley because that's like the best school
Yeah.
or whatever. Then my dad was using his wisdom and like he knew that I wasn't gonna make it into Berkeley.
Oh, God.
He's like you should go to Belmont in Nashville. And I was like, what is that? I don't know about that. And so anyway, long story short, like I like became obsessed with this idea of like moving to Nashville and like going to Belmont and being like a drum major. Like I thought that was my
Yeah.
dream. And long story short, my grades were not amazing. My SAT scores were trash. And I actually came to Nashville and auditioned. My audition was terrible. I don't read music very well. And so I didn't get into Belmont and like crush my dreams. And I didn't really have a plan B for college. But I always wanted to get off the island and like move to the mainland because I've always felt like there was like more for me. And I always thought that college was that for me. And I didn't want to just go to like a Bible school that was easy to get into because I wanted to do music. So I planned on just moving. My parents were going to be moving to Dallas to plant a church right after I graduated, or the summer I graduated. And so my church has this like worship conference every May, in the middle of May. And that's when I actually met Carrie. She had come, she was one of the guests of the conference. She was one of the guest worship leaders. And at the time, her first album had just come out with Integrity. And so she wasn't like touring with a band consistently, and it's expensive to go to Hawaii. And she was often playing with like house bands and things like that. So she showed up there and with her parents, and the band at the church played, and I was like the main drummer by that time. I was 17, and we were terrible. I mean, we were so bad that she actually they like decided that she was just gonna sing to like tracks for a couple of the songs, like the ones that we could handle, or the band could handle. We did, which were like just like covers, and then like some of her like album songs we couldn't pull off. So
Dang.
So yeah, she sang to tracks for a couple, but all that to say, like something happened. I just remember that we played a Sunday morning thing, and I guess they saw something in me that, I don't know, they saw something special, or I did a good job, or I don't know. But her dad found out, or they found out that I was moving to Dallas, and at the time she lived in Dallas. And she was going to Gateway. And they just like, I guess like some light bulb hit, and they were just like, you're moving to Dallas? Like, they actually went to my dad, they didn't even talk to me. They were like, hey, would you be interested in sending your son to Dallas early to come play these like summer camps with us? And my dad was like, I'm sure he would love that, you know? And so my dad came up to me and told me like, hey, Carrie wants you to come play with her this summer. And I was like, what?
We were horrible.
You know? And I know. And so that was just kind of like the beginning of it all. Like,
how old were you?
I was 17.
Dang.
And like, it was hard because, you know, Hawaii was really all I had ever known, and the mainland was such a big world, and I was so inexperienced in like professional anything, you know. I still like relied on my parents for everything, and I was such a kid, like I was honestly terrified to leave. And
Dang.
so I was supposed to leave like a month or two after I graduated, and ended up having to leave like 2 weeks after I graduated high school.
Dang.
To go to these camps. And I just went, and I was terrified, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know that you were supposed to have in-ears. I didn't know, like literally all I had, like all I owned drum gear wise was sticks.
Dang.
Like, and I probably only had like 2 pairs because I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
And my parents would buy me sticks, and they would be mad if I broke them, you know?
Dang.
So
We just got you.
we just got you a pair.
Dang.
But so anyway, yeah, that's basically the beginning. And I moved there, and we played these like basically like youth camps in Dallas. And after that, she had asked me to kind of just stay on indefinitely, and it's been 8.5 years now.
Come on, bro.
That's sick.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Man.
it's like it's one of the biggest like just turning point stories in my life where God was so obvious, like in my journey. It's, you know, it's like the story that I think about just about every day of like, it's also like my anchor into any time I feel like getting prideful about anything. I'm just think back like,
man, it's so good.
you know, like I was once a kid in Hawaii that's like literally the chances of someone leaving Hawaii and getting to do what I do is like 1 in a million. So I try to never take it for granted.
We've had conversations kind of along the way, but there's so many stories like that. And I think that is, there's so much truth to just being available.
Yeah.
That says something, I think, like when you say yes, like we say to volunteers all the time, like showing up, being there, giving your all, doing your best, but like being faithful in that, like can easily be overlooked, or, you know, can get old after a while, you know, sometimes.
Absolutely.
But some of those opportunities come when you least expect them. Like you have no idea, and you happen to be there.
I would say most of the time.
All of the time. Really, like where do those things come from?
Yeah.
And again, along the way, you see where God was involved in that whole process.
Totally.
But I think that, you know, for everybody who's listening, who's involved in their church, and you're just taking opportunities as they come, that's where this stuff comes from. And obviously just having a heart that's just seeking God and wanting to serve and say yes, like
totally.
that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You know? And you never know where that might lead, you know, but in this case it turned into a career, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. You can't make that happen.
It's like, it's actually really inspiring, because, you know, you have a lot of those like guys who are like, I want to be a professional musician, and they're going seeking out like jobs, and I got to get paid, but like your story is like the opposite. And like it's the opposite.
I definitely wasn't even like trying to be a professional musician. I didn't even know what that looked like.
I know. It's just something about like being like faithful, serving like where you are, and just day after day just doing it, and then like the opportunity comes, and that's pretty awesome.
It says a lot about the guys who try to force it too, and try to network. And not that those are bad things. Obviously, you want to build relationships, but are they for the right reasons? Sure. You know, we could go hours talking about this stuff, because I think that that's really the heart and the motive is just being available. You know, just saying yes. And in this case, it's a super cool journey that's kind of blossomed from something. That, I mean, even like you said, I mean, starting at such a young age, even moving to the mainland, like there had to have been a lot of like insecurities involved, like how do I get to school, how am I going to do this, like, I mean, just you could easily compare yourself to other people, but no, you just said yes and went with it, which is awesome.
Yep. Yeah. I think God like had something in mind where when you think about like where you came from, and I'm just speaking like from what I just observed, like, you know, when you think about where you are, like he's like when you look back at this, you're going to be able to say the only way you made it is because of him. Like it's nothing that you did. When you look back at this, it's not like, oh, I worked my butt off and I did this and I called this many people. It's like, no, the only reason you made it, and it's just so obvious. Like it's super inspiring, honestly. Like I love it. Like,
I mean, I've had a lot of guys ask me how more or less just like, how do I get to do what you do? And like you guys both said, like I always kind of start off the responses like, man, this might let you down a little bit, But let me just like tell you my story, because this is all I know. Like I can't tell you like a formula or like how I did anything. And I usually just end up being like, you just have to be faithful, you know, like this is, you know, whether God like takes you from where you are and makes you a professional musician or not, like he's still gonna like exceed your dreams.
Totally.
And like,
Yes.
and it was definitely hard, man. Like, and you know, you could ask my dad, like in the waiting season, which was basically my entire like junior high through high school of just like playing at church, like, dude, I mean, it was every like 4 services a Sunday. Every Friday night we had rehearsal. This was before PCO, you know, where they're like, you're supposed to like know. Yeah. It's not like Nashville where like musicians just show up and like know the music. It was like, all right, we're going to play the song and now we're going to like, you know, figure out the chords together. Yeah. Like that's how our rehearsals were. They were hours.
Yes.
Dang. And so like every Friday night of my life, like every weekend was consumed by church. And I had like some resentment and some issues with the whole thing. Like I just couldn't wait to leave. And like I thought that like getting out and going to college was going to be my escape. And God just like exceeded my dreams more than I could have ever imagined. So like there's it's hard to get through the waiting season, but if you stay faithful, like he is faithful to
That's so good, man.
give you what you need or want, you know.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me a lot of so many other people too, especially and myself. Like, just served. That's all I knew. Like, just go to church, 4 services, Sunday.
I mean, a lot of people just don't see that. I mean, that's the thing. I think we can all say that our stories have been similar to that. Just saying yes, but if you show the years and years and years of just consistently showing up, even when it was hard, or you had a job, or you had stuff scheduled, or you had all these other things planned, you know, as a high school student for sure. I mean, the things at school you had to do, homework you had to do, family time, sports, and then, but I was still there at church, you know, Wednesday nights. And like all those moments, those are the moments people don't really see. They see the, you know, the career and the things that you've done over the years, but it started somewhere, you know. There's no overnight successes.
Totally.
You know, and I think something that your story reminds me of, or a lot of the guys that I know are listening to this, is not so much what do I do to attain that, but what's the gold that you can find in where you're at right now? How can you fall in love with it, with where you're at in the season that you're in? Yeah. And, you know, for you, it was playing V-drums, a thing for the first time, but then falling in love with playing the drums. Right. Like, you know, there's people out there that have been maybe playing in church for, you know, a few years, and what can you fall in love with where you're at right now, you know? And we'll probably open up into this a little bit, because I know you've obviously done some writing, you've done some recording, now you're doing some producing, and how's that kind of helped you as a drummer? Because now you're listening to mixes, you're opening up, I guess, your world a little bit more than even just drums. And there's always something you can fall in love with to kind of sharpen you, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. I'm trying to pinpoint what the question is. Sorry.
It's one of those things. I was hoping you'd finish my sentence, because I really had no idea what my question was. Okay, so how has kind of learning some other areas, like producing, helped you as a drummer? You know, because like for some people, like learning how to play another instrument even will help them as be more proficient at what they do, in a sense.
Well, I think like specifically in worship, like when I started leading too, like I started playing guitar a lot more. I mean, I started learning guitar when I was probably 14 or 15, and, you know, and just like learning to lead, learning to play guitar and or bass, you know, and, you know, in youth group, everyone plays everything, you know. So like
what instrument am I playing this week?
Right, like just like learning that kind of stuff like helps me in my career now, just to like help as a drummer to facilitate. Like I have led worship, so I know what like a worship leader is looking for for certain things.
That's awesome.
And even in producing worship stuff or writing for worship, like as a drummer, like I said, I know like what, like in the audience, like how people respond to certain things, or how leaders dynamically want certain songs and things to go. And I think that's helped me as a drummer and as a writer or a producer, like
awesome.
in both ways. And I mean, not every drummer leads worship or things like that, but I think that there are definitely things that contribute both ways. But
cool.
That's great. Yeah. That was a great answer to the question, because I think that's something that a lot of guys will maybe have. Like, I've been maybe playing drums for a while.
Sure.
And I feel confident. I don't know how to get better or how to grow from where I'm at right now, aside from just learning more songs or learning new songs. But maybe if I jump into something else, like a recording, or if I jump into learning how to play keys or guitar or leading worship, then all of a sudden my mind's kind of opened up a little bit more. Then when I go back to the kit, there's things that I've learned in these other areas that contribute to that, which I think is huge in the growth as a musician, not just a drummer or as a specific thing. So that was really good.
Totally.
I'm gonna throw what might be another hard question, because I know you're so much the guy who's just like, man, I just played that because it felt right. You know what I mean? It's not like you can't explain technically like why you did it, but I'm gonna try to get it out of you.
All right, here we go.
So like there's like kind of there's kind of like three types of playing that I kind of wanted to like talk about with you. And like the first one is like playing live and like playing like spontaneous parts, or just anything that you're playing live. Like how do you approach like playing something that is appropriate? Like what's going through your mind? Like how are you thinking, like what's basically, because one of my favorite things about you as a drummer is like you play like exactly what the song needs so much. I'm like, man, that's exactly what it needed.
Dude,
you know what I mean? Like, and that's like, how did you think of that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it just years of experience? Like,
I usually attribute a lot of like any of the like discernment that I have behind the kit to my dad and to this other worship pastor at my church growing up, just because they were actually keys players. But I had to like learn, I definitely had to learn discipline. Like my dad was kind of a strict person, and because I was his son, he could kind of, give it to me a little bit more than everybody else, or like talk to me afterward. But, and it was hard as a kid, but like I learned so much from him, just because, and I don't think a lot of drummers think about this, but like reading like the body language of like a worship leader. I know that's that's kind of a weird term, but the body language of like a worship leader is huge. Like, whether they're like, and where they're going vocally, and they can obviously like send you signals, which is like, every church has their like signals. That's easy. Anyone can follow that. But like what I always try to do is like go where the worship leader wants to go, that they didn't even think to tell me. You know what I mean? That's like what I'm trying to achieve. And I definitely don't do it every time. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I overstepped my boundaries. And I'll walk off stage and be like, I want to go apologize to the worship leader. Like, hey, sorry. I hope that didn't feel like I was like trying to take a moment. I mean, you can't be perfect doing it. But yeah, like reading a worship leader, I try to stay completely engaged. I'm like, just my eyes are glued to the worship leader for the most part. And just anticipating, just like ready to go, whether it's like ready to go to 10, like at any moment, or like sometimes they just want to sing things. And some advice a friend gave me once was like, you have a click in your ear, but the audience doesn't. And so when there's just like pads and like very ethereal sounding things, like sometimes a congregation needs you to keep time. And not that it's like on your hi-hat, like, but like, that's why I tend to like play my ride a lot in worship, is just like, one, it helps the band play together. And two, it's just like the worship leader has a sense of like time and rhythm, or it can be like played on the toms or whatever, just like always trying to keep a bed of something.
Yeah.
But then there's also times where you have to know when to not play.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hardest thing I think for most drummers or any musicians ever is like learning how to not play.
Yeah.
I think some famous musician had a quote about something like that. But anyway,
it was me.
It was like I think it was Louis
kidding.
Armstrong or something that said all these years. I'm gonna botch it. This is dumb.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No, that was
I'm
perfect.
trying to get around.
One thing I like love about what you said and the way you started that was like, it was like, how do you approach playing a song like live? And it wasn't like, oh, just like, you know, I think this is a cool part. Like you completely like, there's a mindset that you have that's like, I'm following the worship leader. It's not like, I'm just coming up with a cool like 16 like note here, blah blah blah, whatever. Right. It's like, no, I'm following the worship leader, and I love that. And that's just, not only is that just something you do, but like it's a mindset that you can like see as you talk, that it's like everything's about like the worship leader's in charge. Like I'm kind of feeling, and it's more so feeling what's going on, feeling where that person wants to go.
And I would dare to say that like almost. Actually, pretty much never should you do something that the worship leader didn't instruct you to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I mean, I've gone against like MDs a few times and I feel like, no, like this song's going here, and the MD's like, bring it down, and I'm like, I don't think it's going down. Like, not when the worship leader is going like this, you know? So there are a few times where I will override it, but a worship leader, whether they're right or wrong, it's like an honor thing, and it's like they're in authority over you, you know? And it's like whether you think it's like the way the song should be or not, it's not gonna be for the benefit of the congregation and or for you.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not gonna have you play again. So
we actually have an episode coming up about talking about knowing like who's in charge and honor and all that stuff. But I don't know what number it'll be, but be on the lookout for
me.
it. We'll play some
Austin
clips
Davis.
of what you just said right there, because
just
that's
like
perfect.
Cutaways.
If you don't believe me, believe Austin Davis.
Right. That's so good, man.
That's
so
awesome.
Good.
Cool.
We were talking a lot about, there's different approaches, obviously, to live versus recording, and how you would write parts and various things. And I don't know if you want to like expound on any of that. I know we've got we're kind of going long on time, but I definitely wanted to chat just about maybe some of your influences in that, because you mentioned your dad, you mentioned the other like worship leader, but in your approach to like playing live in a worship moment versus parts that you're writing or versus like recording, there's obviously a lot of elements that go together, but what are maybe some differences in your approach to, I guess, each of those arenas?
Well, I think in recording, like in the studio, you have like all this freedom because you can create layers and you can like, the possibilities are essentially endless. Like, and so I always try to put my like really creative hat on when I go into a studio. Like I'll often listen to like, maybe I'm not supposed to say this or not, but I'll often listen to bands like,
you can say anything you want. Trust me, I'm gonna say it. I have already. So
like bands like the National or like the Local Natives and like those kinds of drummers. Those aren't drummers that I would look up to in a live situation, but they're like extremely creative, like sonically, or like Darren King from Mute Math, and people like that who are like innovating drum, like drum parts. Like they're very like part driven, and I'm mostly like what I would consider myself to be like a groove based drummer, like just kind of simple. And so like I always want to push myself like in the studio to kind of be more of a parts kind of thinker. But like when I'm creating for like a live album, it's been a couple different ways. Like Carrie's Majestic album was like very much like Jeremy Edwardson, her producer, like had these like parts, ideas basically for the songs, and they were very like parts driven, which I loved, and it kind of pushed me, and we kind of just like collaborated on making it work live. But then like for the Belonging album, that one was very much like it was kind of just like you know, Henry just kind of trusted me to like facilitate the song, and there are definitely parts, but for the most part I feel like the album is like very simple and attainable for like worship. And I think that that's important. But I don't, as far as like the approach for live, it's just making sure that like dynamically it all works, you know, because like in an album you could like just play a groove, and then like when you get to the chorus you could add like a tambourine or a shaker, and then it feels like it lifts enough. But like sometimes in a live worship setting, like it needs to be bigger than that, you know what I mean, for like a congregation to respond or for the song to feel right. I feel like I'm always just kind of thinking bigger in a live setting, if that makes any sense. Like
talk me through like one of my favorite grooves you did was the on Cross as the final word. Well, actually the original final word that Cody Carnes did. The
right.
Like
it's
what was your approach
version.
there? That's like a complicated like thing, and it's so like whenever we first started doing drum tutorials with you, that was one of the first songs we did, and I was just like, there's so much more going on there than what I could actually thought I was hearing. Like every time adds one layer, whether it's a ride, and it's just insane. Like talk like what?
Well, we actually, the first time we ever played that song, like Cody had just written it and he sent us this like voice memo of it with just piano, and I just was like, dude, we should like, I don't know what we should do to this song. I don't really get it yet, but we should do like big smashes at the end. I was like, that's all I can think of. And so like we actually did it at Outcry, just like on a whim. I don't know how it went. No one knew it. But then so in a sound check later, we started just playing through it, and I kind of went into that like local native Z, like very parts thing. And I just, for some reason, I felt like this like 16th note rhythm would be really cool there. I don't know why. I think maybe because the rest of the song is so straight, you know, 4 on the floor, there's not much to it as far as drums, and I just felt like it needed like this part, and so we just kind of jammed for a long time, honestly, the bridge chords over and over, and I was working out this thing, and I made a voice memo of it, and then when we went into the studio to record it the first time, we probably worked like an hour on making sure it was right. Like me and Cody and whoever else was playing, just like I had the rough idea, and then he was like, well, maybe like hit the tom on this downbeat instead of, because it was actually like more syncopated the way I was doing it before. And anyway, so it was, I think I just had put on that like part driven hat, and I think I'm trying to be more of that in every recording that I do, that I'm not just kind of, I want everything to be intentional and like not just like this works. Like I want to push myself to do something cool, and I think it's always a battle to find something that's cool but works in worship, that's not distracting. And that groove is definitely like, I feel like highlighted, but once this like bridge comes in, it's like no one's thinking about it, which I think is really cool. But like that was basically it, and then it just landed. And like the first time we did it was a studio recording, so it was, you know, I just did the drums and then I added in all these parts, but now live I've like figured out a way to kind of add in all the things, and that's always my approach in like any, it's kind of a side thing, but like you said, like adding, like building, like when I'm like in worship, when I'm like building a song or like dynamics, like I'm always trying to add like one more little thing, whether the audience actually knows it or not, like it's like subconscious.
But it's the little things that like build up and just make it what it is.
Exactly.
Man.
So
It's great.
If you're listening, I don't know, did we say the song is "The Cross Has the Final Word" by Cody Carnes, the live version. It's like the bridge. So if you're listening and you want to check that part out, it's pretty sick actually.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Or you can go to worshiponline.com and watch him play it.
I can teach you how to play it.
Teach you how to play it. Yeah,
It's great.
man, that's good. Yeah,
Cool
really
beans.
there was like one more thing, and that was our two, like we had playing live, recording, and the third one I kind of wanted to talk about, like watching you like do all these like I think we've done like over 250 songs for Worship Online.
Good Lord.
At this point, and like
that was in a year.
Yeah,
Because I started in February last year.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because we were at.
I think we did 60 videos in 7 days.
Yes, because we knocked him out. We're like, let's do 10. You're about to leave for tour. And we're like, well, let's do 10 songs a day, and that'll get us enough to start editing while you're on tour. And when you come back, we can finish the rest.
Right.
And that was like our mobile campus too.
Dude,
we were setting up, tearing
it was just
down
me and
every
you
day.
too.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, setting up, tearing down every day. But
Wow.
that approach has doing that, like, has it helped you, like, do you think maybe playing and just, I guess in a sense, practicing that much, has it helped you as a drummer?
Oh, dude, absolutely. I've seen like a lot of growth. It really is like, because I spend so much time learning the songs.
Sure.
And I've told other people this, that like, it's kind of cool. I would never really think of like practicing worship music as necessarily something that would grow my abilities, because I already play a lot of worship music. But what I realize is that I'm like soaking up things from all these other drummers.
Yeah.
That things that are like second nature to them are not second nature to me.
Yeah.
And so they're actually difficult for me, whether it's like a difficult part or not. Like, it's so good for me to like learn all these other players' things, and not that I'm stealing them, but like, as a musician, or at least me personally, like I'm inspired by everything. Like everything I hear, everything I see, it's not just like this one person inspires me so much. Like I feel like I take things from everything. So it's been amazing to like,
awesome.
And a lot of those guys are my friends. So it's even cooler to just like get to pick apart their parts.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes I'll text them and be like, dude, this sucks. It's really hard,
Yeah.
But it's really good for me. I've seen like really amazing growth, and even just like confidence in my playing even more. And yeah.
I love
It's
that you're
awesome.
like, when we're doing these, you're like such like a perfectionist too. Like sometimes I'm like, that was good enough. Can we just do it and move on? And you're like, no, I'm going to feel bad. This is my own personal like credibility on the line. We have to redo this. He missed one like simple tap.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, it's pretty good. It's good. Let's just move on. He's like, no, I got to nail this.
I'm always scared of that like one kid who's watching it who actually knows it really good and is like, yeah, you didn't do it like the record.
Yeah,
and I'm
missed
gonna
that
be
simple
like,
hit, bro.
come on, bro.
Yeah.
There's like 3 drum overdubs. Like, how am I supposed to do that?
I know. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, even if you do nail it perfectly, we still get those. So it's like, you can listen to them side by side and they're perfectly identical. And we even like listen through like the stem tracks of it, like to nail it perfectly. And it's like, even people, but yeah, it's just, you nail it perfectly every time. So
Thanks.
That's awesome. I love this.
I mean, I have a couple more questions, but I think we're running low on time. You want to just rapid fire them?
Go for it, bro.
Do you have
I'm probably
anything?
the reason, because I talk really slow.
No,
you're good, bro.
Do you have? Unless you have something, we can go for it.
No, I mean, we were just talking about, I mean, those 3 things were big. And I mean, we've just got little things. So I mean, I think we could totally rapid fire them. Like, what's your favorite piece of gear you have?
Favorite piece of gear?
Yeah, for all the people who want to know.
This is actually timely.
Okay.
I actually got a snare in the mail literally like 30 minutes before I got here.
Come on. Nice.
I got this, it's a Q drums out of LA.
Nice.
They're like, it's a copper, they're like 17, that's a stupid number. 7x14, copper gentleman snare.
Sweet.
I can't tell if it's my favorite piece of gear because I just bought it. I played it for 5 minutes and it's like mind blowing. So
nice.
My other snare is going to be on hiatus. So that's currently my favorite.
So
but
it's going out on Winter Jam.
it is going out tonight.
If anybody wants to see it, check
But
out
yeah,
Check out the new
I'm
snare.
super stoked about it.
That's
That
great.
or I love the cymbal company I play, Istanbul. Everything they make is amazing, and I'm super fortunate to be playing them. So
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. rapid
What is
fire.
your favorite thing about touring?
Hmm.
And
Well-
least favorite thing?
Least favorite? Well, there's a lot of awesome things about touring. Obviously, playing music is very fun if you get to do it with awesome people.
Yeah.
Touring can not be fun if you're not with awesome people.
Been there.
But I love playing. That's amazing, and I love just seeing the cities. Whoever we're out with, we always try to go into the city and try to do the best things that there are to do in the cities.
Yeah.
It usually starts with coffee
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. I feel like I've toured every coffee shop in America, but
Nice.
but yeah, I love that part of it.
Nice.
Seeing the cities,
Yeah.
just traveling is so fun.
Yeah.
Not if anything I've realized in touring is that a lot of people don't get to see as many places as I get to see, my family and stuff like that. When they
Yeah.
hear about what I get to do, it's second nature to me, but they're oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What's Des Moines, Iowa like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Not
kind of
many
thing.
people know, actually. So, unless you live there.
I just
but
picked a really random,
Yeah.
not as interesting
We
city.
love Des Moines, Iowa.
No
if you
offense,
live
Des
there.
We love
Moines.
you all,
If
Des
you
Moines
live there,
people
we
No
out
love
there.
offense to Des
We love-
Moines. I'll be there soon.
For all of you, one listener in Des Moines.
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad city.
I think that's it for me.
Awesome.
I've got
great.
all my, I'm it's just me and you. This is
Yeah.
for me actually only.
No,
That's
it's all
all I
good.
wanted to ask.
I've enjoyed it. It's been
yeah,
a lot of fun.
That was awesome.
You can just get to
Seriously,
sit, man,
So
and
much good
beans.
stuff.
hear your story and kind of what all you've gotten to do and just some of the insight. I think that's huge for people, because I know that there's I know personally a lot of drummers who look up to you and have watched kind of your journey from afar, and
Yeah.
I think it's really important to share your story,
Totally.
because I think that we all have a story to share, and the more we get to know each other, the more simple you really find it to be.
Right.
There's a lot of similarities, and there's things that I think a lot of us can adapt to and understand because of our journey. So
Yeah.
thanks for opening up and sharing that. It's
Absolutely.
going to be awesome.
Where can
man.
people find you?
Where can people find me?
On Instagram?
On social media?
Yeah, no, physically.
Physically,
What's your address?
Where are you right now?
I mostly only use Instagram.
Yeah.
I've basically gotten off all other social media. The Austin Davis. I guess that sounds really pretentious, but yeah,
He's the Austin Davis.
it's been my handle since
Yeah.
the beginning of handles.
That-
But yeah,
At the
at the
Yeah.
Austin Davis is my Instagram. If you are at all interested in my EP, I guess I'm the only Austin Davis on Spotify. It's
Great.
just under my name.
Yeah.
Austin Davis.
And if
And
you
it's a
want to watch
great record.
Austin
Check it out.
play drums to hundreds of songs and learn how he does it.
Subscribe to
I
Worship
feel honestly
Online.
I watched you do so many of them because I engineered the sessions, and
Right.
I feel like I'm a good drummer now. I haven't tested it out.
You know how to play
see.
them, but you haven't
I
played
know.
them.
In my mind, I can play it,
I'm
and I
right there
think
with
that's
you.
where it starts in your mind. If you can do it, no. But yeah,
Cool.
hundreds of songs. You nail it. worshiponline.com.
And we're
Thanks,
giving
bro.
away an annual subscription.
That's
So
right.
starting in February, we're actually going
Nice.
to be naming some winners
That's
of
cool.
the annual subscription. So you
Yep.
can sign up. Just go to worshiponline.com/podcast.
Win
Super
a
easy.
free year if you get an email
You
from
can watch
us.
Austin play all 250 songs.
That's right. And
Download
more.
them.
Actually, there's more than that. We just haven't edited them yet. So.
Yeah.
So,
Coming
yeah.
out.
Coming in hot.
Austin, thanks for being with us, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much,
for
bro.
having me.